Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Royal Touring, for inviting me to come and speak. This is a really great opportunity for me to share with you some of the work that Decibel have been doing over the last, about 5 years with National Rural Touring Forum and Decibel Performing Arts Showcase. So to give you a bit of a background, Decibel is in its 5th edition. We've been going with Decibel since 2003, and every 2 years we do a Decibel Performing Arts Showcase. And the aims of Decibel Performing Arts Showcase is firstly to increase touring potential for artists who don't often get those opportunities. The second is to raise the profile of those diverse artists. And the third is to encourage networking with a view of encouraging some kind of partnership or collaboration for these artists. The remit of Decibel initially was for BME artists. Specifically, it was African, Asian and Caribbean artists based in England. And that was quite successful. I feel that Decibel sort of had given a lot of those artists an opportunity. And this was up until 2009, when, in line with Arts Council's diversity paradigm, we decided to look at what we call diverse practice. And I think it's quite important to highlight today that Decibel isn't just for BME artists, because I think it's such a strong brand that it's all synonymous with BME. But actually we've opened up the remit, and it includes what we call diverse practice. And to give you an idea of what we would define as diverse practices, ballet is not diverse, but a black ballet would be considered to be diverse practice. So it can be work from issue-based work. So if it's work around gender, it doesn't have to be a woman. Well, I guess gender is most probably not a good example, but if it's work around race, it doesn't have to be a black person talking about race. It's really about the focus of the work and how the work's made. Other areas of diverse practice could be circus, for instance. At one point we considered to be work that wasn't really being given opportunities on the mainstream, so it's something that we prioritise within the showcase. So showcase this year, 50 exciting artists from all scales, from rural, small and medium scale touring. And when we chose the artists during our selection process, Amanda, who you might have heard from this morning, Amanda Rigali from the Arts Council, she was our chair on the selection panel. She was very keen to ensure that price was a consideration. Because I think some of the feedback we'd had from rural touring managers, I can see a couple of people nodding, was we can't afford this work. So we really considered price, and we tried to make sure that Showcase has something for everybody, you know? So within Showcase, we have 3 ways that artists can present their work. They can present their work as a tour-ready piece, and that's pretty much what the box says. Tour ready, ready to go, buy it, put it in your venue, done. Work in progress, which is actually quite an exciting strand for many of our promoters, which was about work that was in progress that you could invest in either financially or creatively. And I think that gave the promoters an opportunity to start to build a relationship with artists. They could work with the artist over 6, 7 months, a year, to develop their work for their venue, help them sort of like networking with other like-minded venues, and they've got this relationship that they wanted with these diverse artists. So that was a very successful strand. And the last strand, which has become extremely popular, is the pitch strand. 10 minutes, opportunity to pitch your idea. And these pitches are a combination of work that doesn't just quite fit into the other strands, or work that's still at the early stages that's looking for investors or partners. So with that in mind, this year we've also got a marketplace that's similar to your marketplace downstairs, except we have about 65 stands and we have about 500 delegates coming from all over the world. We've also got an international bursary programme of promoters, programmers and critics coming. And I think the critics part is really important, especially for people who are new to programming diverse work. Because what we're hoping to do through this critics engagement, through a strand that we're calling Cafe Clash. And what those critics will do is they will respond to work they've seen the night before to the artist, and have the artist start to explain about the work and the process. And this will hopefully help them to start to find their language and vocabulary around their work or their genre. Because it's quite hard for artists to explain the work, because the art is their explanation of the work. that's their vocabulary. So it's to try and have the artists help to find a space where they can be critiqued and start to be compared in the mainstream with their peers. Many artists many artists that are showcasing this year hadn't actually heard of Royal Tour until Sean came. Sean came a couple of weeks ago and gave them practical guidance as to what is Royal Tour and what it's about, what it's not, and what you can gain from it as an artist. And what was so lovely after the session was over, did a quick survey with artists, and many of them were just like, I had no idea this scheme was in place. I absolutely want to be involved. And it's just lovely to know that they're actually keen, because in the past, when I think another colleague of yours from the Royal Touring Forum had come to showcase artists, that it was met somewhat with apprehension. They had this idea that Royal Touring was not quite for them. But I think since we've had the success of people like Cleveland Watkins has toured 40 countries internationally, and I saw him recently at the Barbican, and he said he had the most amazing experience. He did a 16-day tour as a result of being in the Showcase 2007, and he just talked about the passion, the commitment of the audience from the Royal Touring Circuit. So I think it's a credit to the work that you're doing, that these artists who are well known internationally are really beginning to experience it very positively. Raza Theatre, I think many of you might have even booked Raza. They did a show called Curry Tales, went on to do a 30-day tour after 2005 showcase. And she also went on to do a Royal Tour in South Africa, and she did also tour dates in America. So it's quite nice to see that she really did extend her touring. And the last one that was a really interesting surprise for me was an artist who presented in 2007 called Charlie Dark. And Charlie Dark sold out. He was the buzz of the 2007 showcase. He had 30-day tour, mixed bag venues and main cities, and then some rural sort of dates. And he was an artist, it's a spoken word artist that was moving into theatre. And he said the experience of rural touring for him was such an amazing experience, because he actually realised transitioning from a spoken word artist to a theatre artist can be quite a lonely feeling on stage. And that actually, it didn't quite work with the main theatres, because it felt, our audience felt, the distance between him and the audience felt too far away. And that for him, the better transition was the Rural Tour venues. And then on top of that, what he was heartened to speak about was that people had driven for 3 hours. They'd gone on his website, they'd found out about him. They were eager to find out about him and his art. And he said it humbled him. And what he did is he actually took a break at the end of the 30-day tour and said, I need to think about how I might now make work, because I want to include these sort of like audiences in the way that I make work. So I think for me that's something that's extremely positive. So since 2007, the Royal Touring Forum has been working with Decibel, and we've built an amazingly close relationship. We've had really constructive feedback from Ralph and Sue Robinson and many of the other scheme managers that have attended Showcase. And this has led Decibel to commit into a bursary scheme that's allowing some rural touring promoters to attend Decibel this year. We also, what we're doing to sort of help with the back end of things and to ensure that you get what you need out of Decibel is to give them the sort of back end of the sort of program, which is all the tech specs. So what Ralph and some of his colleagues will do is they will look at the spec and they will identify 10 to 15 artists whose work will fit into rural touring, and then they will signpost those scheme managers that attend to go to this work. We also briefed the artists and said to them, think about other work in your portfolio, think about adapting work, think about having conversations beforehand rather than waiting until showcase. So these are some of the things that we've put in place. I think what's really lovely, what's been lovely about this relationship is there's an appetite and there's a desire on both sides. You know, artists want to increase their touring. National Rural Touring Forum want to diversify their programme offer, work more closely with diverse artists, and also, increase their offer to audiences. So with Decibel Artists, National Rural Touring Scheme, the promoters and Arts Council, we all have the same common ground. We want to diversify rural touring, increase opportunities for both audiences and artists. And I hope some of you that are here today that haven't attended Decibel Showcase would sign up, or you can speak to me afterwards and I'd be happy to tell you how we might be able to support you coming. Thank you very much.